said chuckling.
Look,
we're creating a subscription model, right? And we think that I as a kid was a boxing fan. And right, I remember the Four Kings and in middleweights. I remember Ali and Frazier and Foreman and post Tyson. There's been very few fighters who have broken through the consciousness of the world. We have Anthony Joshua, and we need to bring him to the United States so people know about him, because pay-per-view hijacked the sport, and it made a lot of money, and it was a good thing for some number of people. I think now there's going to be a correction, which is fighters need to fight the best fights. They need to fight more often. We need to see people fight. So that's what we're going to do. We understand that boxing is quite diffuse, and there's a lot of players and a lot of competitors. I helped do the deal at Top Rank, at ESPN for Top Rank. I respect those guys. I like those guys. We expect to work with those guys in a friendly manner to create good fights. We expect to work with anybody who we need to work with to make fights. We're not going to be able to sign everybody, and we do not expect to have a closed universe. We expect to work with everybody, but we are trying to push for some change, which we think is good for fans. The best fights should be affordable. The best fights should happen. There should be no fighters who fight once every 2 years, who hold belts. And we want to do those things, and we want to take a lead in that. And I'm a competitive guy, and we want to win. We want to have the best offering among any of those, but they're all free to compete for that.
From your position, is there an interest to add to your library outside of live fights? Like, I know Don King's been trying to sell his library of fights, which he obviously has as big of a library as anyone in boxing. Is that something you'd be interested in pursuing, to kind of build DAZN's library of content?
At ESPN, we owned a very large archival library of boxing, and I can tell you a large archival collection of boxing is less valuable than a Golovkin-Canelo fight.
Okay, fair.
In terms of the priority of what I'm interested in, it's creating great live fights.
All right, and then one last question. I appreciate your time. I've talked to a number of people in the industry that feel like Fox and ESPN are sort of ramping up their boxing as a way to fight DAZN and try to minimize you guys now before you start fighting these networks for major sports rights like the NFL and stuff like that, where if they can beat you now, then they avoid these fights later on. How far ahead is DAZN thinking in terms of increasing their coverage outside of boxing?
The first thing to remember is we're a global company, right? We'll launch pretty soon in our 9th country, which is Brazil. We just launched in Spain 2 weeks ago. We launched in Italy back in June. We have plans to launch in the 10th and 11th and 12th country in the not too distant future. So we have to think about country by country how we can succeed, right? We can succeed in Italy because we have 3 out of every 10 Serie A games a week. We can succeed in Japan because we have the Japanese football, that is real football, league, and we have the Japanese baseball league. We can succeed in the United States right now because we think we can win in boxing, and that's what we're doing here. We also did add a baseball show, which I think is going to have a lot of appeal to millennials, and which we're making a significant investment in. You'll see us. We're in other fight sports already with Bellator. You can expect us. We'll be competitive, but there's just not much to buy right now. Most things are. So what we're trying to do is build our business globally. We're not dependent upon building our business in the U.S. to be able to compete for U.S. rights. We can build our business around the globe to compete for U.S. rights. So yeah, I expect that the other, I think, and I'm happy to compete. There's a lot of competition in the United States, and we expect to compete.
It's an arms race, and you guys have the biggest nukes.
Well, no, ESPN has the biggest news. I mean, ESPN is the largest sports company in the world, and what we're trying to do is be a challenger.
So is that your differentiation, the Being global, is that your differentiation? Being
Well,
global?
that is, if you had to say, here's DAZN and here's ESPN, what's the biggest difference? The difference is we're global and they're domestic. By the way, their domestic business is dramatically bigger than anybody else's global sports business. They're the largest sports business in the world. So nobody has more arms than them.
Do you plan on using your relationships over there to kind of generate these better fights that you spoke about, and then unify the titles in boxing?
Look, it would be a good thing for fans if there were unified titles in boxing. That's good for everybody. You heard Gennady talk about the fact that, with the belts, there's a lot of politics. It should be about who the best fighters are.
Sure.
And that's what we care about. Look, when I was at ESPN, I worked with every network, right? We had to figure out ways we worked with Fox to do a Pac-12 deal. We worked with CBS to do an SEC deal that worked for both parties. I'm used to working
So you
with
know the art of the
anybody.
deal.
I don't know if I want to use that term. So that term has been used by somebody else.
Right. Well, you know how to make a deal. That's what it sounds like. You know how to make a deal.
I think that for me, the best way to make a deal is to, one, understand what you need, and then to find out what the other person needs and figure out how to create a situation where those two things align.
Is that a long-term goal for DAZN, or is that too far out? Unification of the titles through your already partnership that you have established?
Look, I think everybody who cares a lot about boxing would love to see there be some fundamental change in the way the sport works. They'd like it to be more available, more appropriate financial terms, and I think most people would like to say, certainly in my generation, people would like to say, that right there is the middleweight champion of the world. There's the heavyweight champion of the world. Not, oh yeah, this guy's got a belt, this guy's got a belt, and this guy's got two belts. It's like, it's not about belts. It's about who is the best light heavyweight, cruiserweight, bantamweight fighter in the world, and let's get in the ring and contest that. And let's say, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And and we're going to get to do this in the middleweight division, at least. And maybe I'll do it with other people in other divisions.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.